Okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? So this is the project framework. So we have 4 stages: discovery phase, plan phase, develop, test, and control phase, and then release and closure. And these are the different stages. So in the discovery phase, we have our scope statement, some research by our researchers, our UX and UI researchers, feasibility study, our persona definition and customer ID, as well as our product vision. And then we can look back at previous lessons from other projects that are linked to that particular project, project charter, PID, our cost and resource plans. Then we look at our business case and get approval, stakeholder identification and analysis. And then we move on to our plan phase, where we set up things like governance, control processes, we secure resources, and we start implementation. So there will be governance set up, that we'll be assembling the team, kickoff meetings, team charter. Then we start setting up our tools for our testing, our UAT, our production. Then we do our requirement elicitation, our product backlog building as well, getting like our user stories, definition of done and ready, then our product backlog prioritization, as well as our refinement, and then the formal approval of all our plans, as well as milestones and deliverables. And then also working with team, collaborating, and then looking at our performance matrix. And then we'll go into our third stage, where we'll develop, test, and control, phase where we have our daily stand-up, our sprint planning and estimation, all the iterations and tracking. Then we also look at our quality testing, our bug fixing, our sprint reviews, our demos, client feedback, retro. We also look at our risk mitigation, impediment, solving any problems that we might have, and as well as communicating with our stakeholders. And finally, work on our process improvement plan. And then for the last phase, which is the release and close phase, where we'll be deploying and going live and handing over, as well as closing the project. So there'll be opportunity to sort of do our product increment, product launch, and then we analyze and summarize the key results. As a result of those, we work on looking at a whole project retrospective, plan next steps, celebrate achievement, we end our project report, and then we archive our documentation. And those are the stages that we have worked on as part of the Agile framework for Blue Sky Citadel. Any questions for me?
Okay. This framework that we have here now, this is, what do you think about this framework? I know you guys created it, but what do you think about it? If you see this framework, what would it say to you? Talk to me, guys. Don't be quiet.
I don't fully understand. So this is Kemi. I don't fully understand your question for me.
My question is, if you go to an organization, any organization, and you see this framework, what would occur to you? What will come to your mind? Do you fully understand my question now?
Not specifically, no. I mean, looking at it.
It's a very straightforward question. What I've asked you is very straightforward, right? You go anywhere, you see something comes to your mind, right?
Yes.
There's no rocket science in the question I've asked you now. If you see somebody walking that you've never seen before, something comes to your mind. If somebody is coming towards you, something comes to your mind. Correct?
Yes.
So if you see this, you go to an organization and you see this, what comes to your mind? And you say you don't understand my question.
Well,
That's a very straightforward question, right?
well, if this is presented as the framework of how they deliver their project,
Mhm.
looking at it, it's hybrid because it has elements of the like agile scrum in there and some elements of waterfall. So if I looked at this, my mind would go towards this is more of a hybrid kind of setup. That's where my mind were reading through it.
Okay, no problem. That's good. Anybody else?
So I think it's a combination of agile and waterfall. And I think it's better than the first and second draft that we had that we first presented. So this is easier to follow. This is easier to implement and to work through. So overall, I think is a good framework.
Okay. All right. That's good. Anybody else?
Sorry, sorry, I've got a bit of cold, so my voice may be a bit low. But like Kemi and Choma said, if as an intern, newly appointed or got a role, and I'm the opportunity to have this framework, we'll see it as an hybrid. Yeah, with it's quite. I know the processes are quite a lot, but if I'm a well-experienced person, I might not say what I'm saying right now. So, but based on my experience at the level of experience that I have, I would say it's an hybrid, simple process to follow. Thank you.
Okay. All right. It's truly a hybrid. What you've given, it's hybrid, and nothing is wrong with it. So it's good that you have the 4 stages that you have right now. But it's also good for you to also streamline this. If I should ask you, what you've done is right. Nothing is wrong with what you've done. We may look at 1 or 2 things or 3 missing that you're going to include. But if I should ask you, how can we make this to be more agile? What would you think? Is that possible? Is it doable? Talk to me, guys. Don't keep quiet on me. You know I don't like it when people are too quiet on me.
Yeah, I'll say good evening, Rami. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's to make it more agile. I could maybe suggest that we emphasize more on reviewing the processes. So there should be a lot of reviews and incremental addition of value to.
So how can we do that? How can we do that? You know, because what we're doing is practical, right? You see what I mean? There are some of you here that 1 or 2 of you may get a job where they may not have a framework, just as Blue Sky does not have a framework. And you guys are creating framework for Blue Sky right now. You may get a job somewhere and they don't have a framework and they want you to create an agile framework for them. Do you understand what I mean? So what can you do in a practical sense? Not in the theory to say, oh, we can create, no, but what can we do to what we have now? Nothing is wrong with what we have. We may walk around with it, but what can we do to what we have right now to make it more streamlined?
Could we remove some of the stages?
Yeah, that's an option. That's it's an option. I just want you to be able to think out of the box, guys. That's all. What can we do to streamline this? Let's say you present this to someone and somebody said, can we make this to be more agile? What would you do? Kemi, what are you going to say? Chioma, what are you going to say? Olu, what are you going to say? Isaac, what would you say? Or would you tell them it's not possible?
I wouldn't say that, but I wouldn't be able to answer on the spot right now as you're asking. But I wouldn't say it's not possible without being sure that it wasn't possible. But I'm not saying what you're saying, I guess, to make it more agile.
Okay. You can see that in agile, we don't just do plan. There are some words that you use here that I would want you to avoid. Huh? As an ADM, as an agile project manager, there's some words you use here. Nothing is wrong with it. Words like plan, words like control. We tried, it's just like when you are using the word program manager in agile. We try to avoid it. Nothing is wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely nothing is wrong with it. But we try to avoid it. Are we clear?
Okay.
So in agile, when you hear people talk about control, managing and control stage, we try to discourage it as much as possible. Plan phase is typically waterfall. You agree with that, guys?
Yes.
It's typically waterfall because what you are saying to me is your first phase, all right? The element, I can't see the element of agile in the first phase on the process. Some of the activities you want to do are activities that are like digital transformation activities, but I'm struggling to find agile process in it. How do we intend to carry out these activities in the discovery phase? Do we just do it haphazardly? How are we going to do it? So are we saying that our first stage and the second stage, everybody just does what they like? Is that what we're saying? And who do we need for the first phase? Who do we need for the second phase? Because it seems the third phase, that's where we said develop, test, and control phase. We cannot have control phase on the third phase when we're developing. Anything that has to do with control, even if you are going to work in a waterfall, you must have put your control process in place before you get into the development phase. Because your control becomes an auto run. When we say control, you remember the controlling tools that I taught you. What are the controlling tools that we have, guys? What are our controlling tools? Be yourself. Talk to me. Don't keep quiet on me. Don't make me feel I've not said it before. There were 3 pillars we spoke about, right? We spoke about approach, we spoke about the control, and we spoke about the reporting. What are the things that we have in the control tool?
That would be things like your RAID log,
Fantastic.
your change control, and
So would you be, Kemi, based on what you said now, would you now just be creating your rates log after develop and test? Is that what we're saying?
no. So in what we created, the first box on the plan We actually, when we thought about it, we thought that's where you set up your governance, your controls, your reporting tools. So things like rate, change control, your processes and everything, you would set it up under the plan phase. But the intention for that develop phase was the word control in there is to make sure that you are mitigating risks, solving, resolving impediments, doing your stakeholder communication and management and things.
Then we wouldn't call it a phase because you already have it in auto run, even in waterfall. Don't forget, the reason you set it up on a phase, the reason we call it a phase is because you are telling us how you will manage this project effectively. You want me to know that you have those things in place under control. When you have created something under control, do we need to recreate that thing again?
No,
Kemi,
no,
what do we do?
If you've created it and embedded it, then you would be running and managing it.
Exactly. So all you need to do is to be maintaining it. It becomes your working document. It becomes a tool that you are using every day, every time required. We can't call it a phase in our development. We will be contradicting ourselves. Do I make sense?
Yes.
So now, and that's the reason I'm asking some of the questions I'm asking because, see, let me tell you, as a delivery manager, if you understand your phases of project management, nobody in this world can boogaboo you anywhere you go, anywhere you are. Do you understand? So it doesn't matter whether you do it in waterfall, you do it in agile. It's just important for you to know why you are managing your project the way you are managing it. It gives you a level of confidence that nobody can take away from you. And that's the level I want you guys to operate. Am I asking too much?
No.
All right. So if you look at it, what you have in front of you can be streamlined. We can actually have this in 3 phases. If anybody should ask you, what can you do? I told you the other time, what's the shortest phase, what's the smallest phases we can have
3.
in project? I didn't say 3, guys.
Oh,
That's true.
2, sorry, 2.
You guys you're following my hands tonight. Huh? I told you, we can have 2. Now, with an agile with an agile phases, with an agile SDLC, we can have it as 3. And when we want to have it as 3, how can it be possible with what we have in front of us? Guys, if we want to reduce this to 3 phases, how can we do it? Nothing is wrong with what you've done. Don't get me wrong. Like I said to you, nothing is wrong with what you've done. But if somebody is asking you to reduce this to 3 phases, how can you do it? How do you think this can work?
Well, I think it would probably, maybe you'd look to either combine what we've got as discovery and plan. Maybe you do that in the same, because your iterative build, I feel that should be in a phase of its own, that continuous iterative build and releasing things. And it's usually good to have all your closures in one phase to signify things rounding down or handing over to BAU. So looking at this, if I was asked that question, I would be looking at the discovery and the planned one. I might be wrong, but that's where my mind would go.
Okay, So, which means it's possible for us to have the element, the discovery phase. We can have the discovery phase, and some of the things you have in your plan phase, you can actually have it here together in phase one. And some of the things that you have in plan phase, you can put it into develop tests, correct?
Yes, that's where my mind will go.
Develop tests and release, right? Or just develop tests. Is that what you want?
I would have said develop test.
Okay. So, which means in your developed test, what are the things that you want to do in your developed test? Your product backlog was created in your plan phase.
Yes. So,
Your team building, collaboration, performance matrix in your plan phase.
yeah.
So when you now get to your development stage, you have your daily stand-up. This is where you are starting your daily stand-up and agile processes, which means what you are telling me is your phase one and phase two will be waterfall. That's what you are saying. Or how do you intend to manage phase one and phase two? Because you can see that I hope you understand what I'm saying. Your scrum ceremonies, your scrum events are not starting based on what I see here. They are not starting until the third phase. Is there any reason for that?
I think we were just trying to just put them, because the idea was the iterative build, the elements of the build itself should be in a phase of its own. That's why we've kind of put them all into that third phase. And that's why it starts off with just that in the third phase. That's what we were thinking of mainly, that third phase would be. The all of the ceremonies and the build and the test and everything will be running within that third phase. That was the thinking process when we did when we wrote the framework.
Okay, but how do we, okay, see, when you are doing your UX, UI researches, and when you want to do some of the design that you do, how do we want to manage that? Do we just to be building without getting stakeholders involved? Because what makes it agile is the fact that we're collaborating with customers, with business, isn't it? With our stakeholders. How do we want to relate with them? Because what I'm saying here is, even in our product backlog creation, we're not getting stakeholders involved. Our requirement elicitation, we're not getting the stakeholders involved. How do we intend to run it? Talk to me. Huh? Are you with me?
So are you saying that we should have included things like stakeholder reviews or workshops or things like that?
Well, I'm asking questions that I feel should help you to understand that when we say we want to, because you are delivery managers, you are not just project managers. If you want to call yourself, we will call you agile project manager or agile delivery managers. It's not the same as being a typical project manager. Do you understand? As a delivery manager, what you are expecting is to be able to manage things from the beginning, from your discovery phase. You want to see, and that's why delivery managers must be people that have agile mindset. So from the beginning, we want to see that we're getting stakeholders involved. Why are we doing persona definition? What are the workshops that we're supposed to do? What are the things that we can do in the first phase here to help us to even be able to build, a product backlog that makes sense? Otherwise, we'll build a product backlog that may not even make sense. Do I make sense to you?
The explanation makes sense just to me, but it's how to reflect all of that in the framework is what I'm not sure of, without it being an extremely long sort of bulleted list. That's what I'm
Yeah, it shouldn't be extremely long, but at the same time, that's the reason I'm asking when we talk of our review meetings, many times we can start some of these ceremonies even in a skeletal way. It could be retros that we want to be doing. It could be reviews that we want to be doing. It could be. Do you get what I mean?
I think you went on mute for a bit, Femi. I think you're on mute. Can anyone else hear Femi? It looks like he's on mute, but I don't know if
No, he's not speaking.
Sorry, Kemi, can you guys hear me?
yes,
No.
you can.
Okay. So what I'm saying is, if nothing is wrong with what you've done here, but we have to know how to be able to create the loop for us to be able to get feedback. Not only that, we should be able to also shrink this to 3 phases effectively without any trouble. Can we do that? Or is it too much?
To streamline the 4 phases to 3 phases.
Yeah, you should be able to do that, can't you?
Yeah.
Nothing is wrong with what you have. And I want the 2. I want this one, and I want the one that is adjusted to 3 phases as well. But I want you to think out of the box.
Okay.
Can you do that?
Yeah, we'll try our best.
Here you go.
Okay, fantastic. So the next thing that I would want you to now do for me is, in the last phase of it, I talked to you guys.
Femi, you've got silent again. We can't hear you, Femi.
Hello, guys. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now hear you.
Okay. So what I'm trying to ask is this. Those of you've listened to the video, some of you that were not on the call, the day I was explaining the last phase, when I was talking of how we do releases, how we plan, Have you all listened to it? Those that were on the call on that day, do you remember that?
Yeah, remember the release phase that you spoke on.
Okay. So in some of the things that we have here, your project retrospective, are you talking of the overall retrospective? Are we talking of the overall retrospective, or what's
Yeah.
this one? Huh?
Yes.
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 Where we want to talk of what, okay. So, all right, fantastic. Fantastic. All right. Okay. So, but your UAT is coming in develop and test. Right? Talk to me.
Yes, that's where
Yes.
But you remember we said it that day that before we do our UAT, it's important for us to see that we've done our sit testing. Is it after your UAT that you will do sit testing, guys? Do we do UAT after we've done system integration testing? We're supposed to do system integration testing and then do our UAT, isn't it?
So something we can change then. We can change that.
I think you've gone on mute again, Femi.
So the question I'm asking is this: are we not supposed to do our system integration testing? Who are the people that we need for UAT, guys? Who are the people we need for UAT? Based on the explanation I gave on that day. Who are the people that we need for UAT?
So your end users, usually.
So does that mean if the end users would have tested before I now do system integration testing? Is that what we're saying?
No.
Is that what we're saying?
No.
That's the reason I'm asking some of the question I'm asking, because when we look at the phase, that we have here, you see this is why I was asking the question I was asking. We have our risk management, impediment resolution on this third phase when we are building. But you remember you said to me that in this second phase, when you set up the governance, you already have it in your governance. So the question I'll be asking is, why do I have it in the third phase? If you go to the second phase again in your plan, you said you have you. You said you have you there as well, right? So it's confusing for me. That's what I'm trying to get. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you.
So do you look at the second phase, our plan phase? You have UAT, build environment, set up tools, development tests. Okay, we're talking of the environment setup here, right? Is that what you are referring to?
Yes, environment tools and all.
And we don't need to set up environment for UAT. If we need to set it, that's fine. I don't mind. If it's just the environment you are setting up here on the plan phase, no problem. So, but you need to state it to let us know that it is the UAT environment you are talking about. So how many environments do you want to have then?
How many environments?
I taught you all of this. I explained it to you the other. That's why I said, have you listened to the video? I said that when we talk of environment, we have different environments. We have the environment that we call the build. That is your developer's environment. We have development environment. We have test environment. We have what we call, you could have pre-prod. It depends on how rich the organization is. You could have pre-prod environment, and you can then have production environment. And some organization may tell you, we don't have money for that. We only need two environments or 3 environments. Without the environment, you don't know where you are deploying to. So you haven't watched that video, have you? Tell me.
No, I haven't watched it yet. No.
Okay. All right. For those of you that were on the call on that day, do you remember what we discussed? Or nobody understands it?
Femi, could
Talk
you
to me,
explain
guys.
again? Femi, could you
Huh?
explain? Please
Pardon?
explain. I said, please explain again.
Okay. I said to you that in software development, we have various environments where we work. Now, and I gave you an example. Do you remember? I gave you an example, those of you that were on the call. I said, it's like when you are writing a document, when you are creating, the simplest way that I can make it clear to you is, I said, if you are creating a Word document, what's the process? Who can talk me through it? Please talk me through your creation of Word document. You want to create a Word document for a publisher. You are writing a book and you want to create a Word document for a publisher. How would you go about it? Please talk me through it, because that would help you to understand what I'm saying better.
So you find a template in Word, like for a book, for instance. And then you start typing that has different pages and contents and different format like that. And then you can start typing. You save it.
In what format would you do it? I won't just give it to me. See, it's no rocket science. What I'm asking you for is very straightforward. It's no rocket science. Just give it to me simply. I'm listening.
So you open Word, Microsoft Word, new document. So find a template, say in this case is a book. So find a template for a book that allows you to have content pages and different sections. And then start typing, name it, save it, and then start writing.
Okay, so when you start writing, as you are writing, you are developing. That is creation. That is on your own laptop, isn't it? Eh?
Yes.
Do you understand what I'm saying? When you
Yeah.
finish writing, what would you do? You have typed, you have done things. When you finish writing, what are you going to do? Tell me.
Save. You save the document.
Before you save, what are you going to do? Before you save it, you want to read
You
through.
proofread.
You want to
proofread it.
proofread. Abi, after you have proofread the work, you save it. When you save it, because it's a book, what would you do? What do you want to do? You remember you've saved it on your own computer before. What would you now do? Your own computer, that place you've done it, that is your development environment. Because you can make any mistakes, you can do anything, you come back to correct it. But when you save that work, what do you need to do after saving the work? Guys, let's hurry. It's no rocket science. Talk to me.
You need to send it to the publisher.
Before sending it to the publisher,
You can back.
would you just send it to the publisher like that?
You can back.
You are very confident of yourself. Huh?
Just hope
You can back it up.
Okay. Apart, you may back up, but before you even do any backup,
Oh,
You may want to share it. You need somebody to proofread it for you.
Yeah.
Why do we have people that review anything that has to do with writing, doing stuff? You need somebody to help you read through. Every book that you read, you in the acknowledgement section, what are the first things you will see in the acknowledgement section when they're acknowledging people? Who are the people they're acknowledging first?
Editors, proofreaders.
Thank you. So what would you do with the editors? When you send it to an editor, are you going to send your computer to them? Would you carry your laptop and give it to editor to edit? What would you do? You save it. You can put it maybe on another format. Maybe Google, it could be that you use Google Word or Google, you share it on Google Edit or whatever, where that person can edit in real time and send it back to you, isn't it?
Yes, like Google Docs, yeah.
Like Doodle. That is another environment. That is not the environment where you created it. This is how environment works. Now, when that person has finished, that person would look through and say, no. This one is not what you said you want to write about. For example, if you are telling people that you want to write about love, and they are reading so much about hatred, or they are reading so much about, and your language or your dictions and, your words or your spellings are not good enough, they will correct it, isn't it? And they will send it back to you. And you want to now make correction and now let them look through it again and be sure that everything is good, isn't it? Huh? Are you with me, guys?
Yes, yes.
So after they've done that, they give it back to you. You look at it. You now send it back to them. They look at it. When you are fine with it, that's when you will send it to the publisher. When one or two people have gone through it, when you are sending it to a publisher, are you sending it as something that you will say, please proofread? Is that what you want to say to editors, to publishers? Is that what we want to say to publishers? Guys, talk to me because of time.
No. We want to send a complete work that
Yeah,
is
thank
ready
you.
for publishing.
That's a different environment completely. You are sending to editors, to publishers, what is clean. What you know somebody has read and they've done that, you send it to the publisher. Guess what? So you think it is clean, it is ready. When you give it to publishers, you know what publishers will do again? You know what they will do again?
They'll get it checked again.
They'll get it checked again because they don't want to give rubbish to customers. They don't want their names to be spoiled. They don't want to soil their image. So they would also get it checked again. And you see, that's why many times when you read books, that's the only reason you see that most errors had been eliminated or dealt with before it gets into your hands. But even with that, how many of you have read books that you find some silly mistakes that you feel, what is this? How many of you have read books? I have read books. Maybe all of you, you've never read books that you see, you find some silly mistakes and you feel, what do they mean by this? Is that correct?
No, in some books, especially some old texts, the old ones before, I guess, invention of spell, a lot of more intuitive spell checks.
That's it. So now, when publishers now see it and they've gone through everything, that is when they can bind it. That is when they would now say, we want to sell it. After binding it, they still give it to people to look through it, look through everything, formalize it, before they can tell you, oh, we're going to produce so copies of it. Initially, they may not produce more than 50 or 100 copies. They may just produce 100 copies of it, let 100 people read it, give them feedback before they produce more. That is exactly what we do in software development work. Am I making sense, guys? And those are part of the things that you will find in your deployment stage. Before deployment stage, you have developed, you have done things, you've done this, you've done that. Now, the people that you call the users, all right, they cannot just be testing in your development environment. We have people that we call testers. We have people that we call users. They are two different people. So your test environment is not the same as the environment of your user. It's got to be that the testers have tested, you've integrated the system, they know that the system works. That's when you give it to users, because users don't have the time. You're going to waste their time if you give them something that is not ready. Do I make sense?
Yeah.
Do I make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the reason for all the changes and for the environment that we're talking about. So you need to, if you don't know anything about environment, you've got to learn it now, because as an ADM, any organization you go to work, they expect that you understand this. So it's after we've done that, that we can then say that we have deployed to life, and there are different stages. Don't forget what I said now. With books, we may first produce like 50 or 100. So which means when we are releasing our product, our software, we may first release to 50 or 100 customers. We call it pilots. Does that make sense? It's the feedback from those people that will now allow us to say that we want to give to more people. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I would want to ask is, will it be possible for us to walk through what we have now? Can we walk through what we have and streamline it? Can we?
To create the 3 phases that you mentioned.
Yeah, try 3 phases, but beyond the 3 phases, the one that we've created now that we know that some of those things, whatever it is that we have in it that needs to be corrected, we can correct it. But what you have done, like I said, I'm happy with the 4 phases. I just want us to get it better. Nothing is wrong with 4 phases. But if we want to make it agile, it's important for us to see how we can bring it down, and then let it reflect some of the things that we've said now. Okay? The next thing that I want us to really talk about today is your change management process. We've walked through change management. I know that I gave you John P. Cotter. Do you remember that? Do we remember John P. Cotter when we talk about 8 phases of change management? Hello, guys, talk to me.
Yes,
You're all quiet. Does that mean you are not in class when I taught it, or you've forgotten it?
I don't remember. Maybe I wasn't in class.
Okay. On Thursday, we will be dwelling on change management. And please, I want to see the risk management tool that you've created as well. Is that okay, guys? Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
The Cotter, the Cotter that you mentioned, Femi, is that with a K? John P. Cotter.
It's John P. It's John P. Cotter. John P. K. Yeah. It's Kotter. John P. Cotter. All right? See you guys on Thursday. All right?
Thank you, Femi.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Femi.